Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dr. Broom Show. Today we're going to be talking about KMD. Specifically, we're going to be talking about KMD's first album, and how it relates to resistance and rap and resistance in the larger scene. I'm going to bring in my esteemed co-host right now, Dr. Olivia Wolter-Cook. Round of applause for Olivia Wolter-Cook, please.
Oh, hi, Pa. How you doing out there? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
Oh, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
A bit more theatrical in me, of course. I'm a professional. Now, Dr. Cook.
Yes,
This
sir.
is a quick show. We got to hit these points as quick as possible. Give me a 30-second rundown. Who are KMD? What is this album? What is Mr. Hood?
KMD. They're stands for causing much damage, or a positive cause in a much damaged society. Rap group.
1988.
They formed 3 dudes, all buddies. They were a graffiti crew, then they were a breaking crew into the dance scene, and then made a rap crew.
High school students.
High school students.
And who are the members of KMD?
Well, we had Jade 1, later replaced by Onyx the Burstone Kid. We had DJ Sub Rock. And then we had Zev Love X, a.k.a. MF Doom, a.k.a. Victor Vaughn, a.k.a. King Ghidra.
How many names does this guy have?
I know. A.k.a. Metal Fingers, a.k.a. Metal Face, a.k.a. one half of Danger Mouse, a.k.a. one half of Bad Villain, and a.k.a. the 2006 Adult Swim Christmas Watch-Along host.
And known by his government name, Daniel Dumoulin. Now, Daniel Dumoulin Thompson is his actual birth name. Later changed to just Daniel Dumoulin.
There you go. So this album, Mr. Hood. 2 albums in their discography. We had Mr. Hood, the first one, released in 1991. And then we had Black Bastards. Had a tough release later on. Got it released way later than they wanted to because of the stuff around the cover art.
But we digress, as we're focusing on Mr. Hood today.
Mr. Hood. I think it's a really great album. I think it takes reality rap in a whole different kind of way. Kind of got a De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest, Digital Underground kind of goofiness to it. You know, they have really deep lyrics talking about really serious issues, but in like a comical, jovial kind of way. And that's shown through, they've got funny little samples, Sesame Street samples, but then very serious samples, like a Malcolm X sample. And it tells the story of a character called Mr. Hood. And KMD leads him through the hood and kind of teaches him a thing or two, and gives him their knowledge, and explains their morals to him and what they stand for.
And who would you say Mr. Hood is, as an entity?
So as an entity, actually, in an interview with the real Mr. Hood, he kind of says that Mr. Hood is an embodiment of where they were from. He's a character who he's rich, and he's doing really well for himself, but he's doing very well for himself on the backs of the people in his community. By selling drugs. He's a drug dealer. And he's an odd character where he's he kind of thinks he's better than everyone as well. He's got this kind of attitude, and that's even shown through where the Mr. Hood voice comes from. Where does it come from? You tell me.
Well, it comes from a English learning record from, I believe, the 1960s, a Spanish English learning record, and it has a very neutral sounding American white voice. And why do you think that is relevant? What does that say about resistance, specifically when we compare it to the voices of the members of KMD?
Well, I think in a way it's trying to say that, there's a specific way that someone has to talk, and more specifically, a way that someone needs to speak if they are going to be successful and be taken seriously.
Well, we see this in the first song, of course.
We see this in the first song, that when he goes into the jewelry store, they're taking Mr. Hood very seriously, maybe because of the way he's dressed. He's looking to spend a lot of money on earrings for his wife, and the way that he speaks. And Zev comes in and they treat him like crap. They say, this is not a pawn shop. This is a jewelry store, But then in the end, Zev actually knows more information about the prices of the jewelry than Mr. Hood does. So it's resisting that stigma that because he's dressed nicely and he's, rich and speaks very eloquently, that...
That was eloquent.
What?
That was eloquent.
Thank you very much. That it's resisting that stigma that, he knows more than me because of the way he looks, the way he talks, when Zev really is the more knowledgeable one. And he might be dressed in, in the music video for whom he's got a baggy pants and a baggy t-shirt and, doesn't speak like Mr. Hood.
Well, of course, perhaps there's some resistance there to a bit of ageism, specifically racial ageism, because a young black man in the 1980s,
in New York,
back in New York, 1980s, 1990s, dressed a lot different than a young black man would have dressed in 1960s New York.
Very true, very true. Yeah, because they are in New York, just a little, we're formed in Long Beach. So yeah, so and the whole album, there's resistance. There's also like the resistance of KMD against a lot of the things that Mr. Hood is talking about, and there's resistance against a big one is stereotypes. They talk about the little Sambo character a lot, which is a very racist depiction of stereotypical black person. They talk about the features, over-exaggerated features and stuff, and they're big X through Sambo here. So we're resisting the racism, classism, drugs.
Let me interject there.
Please.
Let's return to Sambo if we could.
Yeah.
Isn't there a specific line on the album where they talk about not even knowing a Sambo?
Yes. They say, who is he? It's in Who Me. Who is Sambo? Nobody I know. Maybe he's on a milk carton. Like we don't know who that is. This caricature that is, portrayed that's who we're supposed to be, but we don't even know this guy. Who are you talking about?
I mean, that's such a beautiful act of resistance against this racist depiction, because instead of saying this is racist and bad, it's saying, well, it's not even accurate.
Yeah.
This isn't even us that it's depicting.
Where'd you get that from?
Yeah.
Friends? Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a good one, and we're gonna go deeper. I know you have a segment that we all love, but we're gonna go deeper into these issues of black empowerment, religion, all of these things in a segment that is called my favorite, Lyrical Breakdown.
We're gonna get that segment in just a moment. Quick word from our sponsors. Do not touch me. That is in the contract. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. That was quite the ad break we just had.
Always have so much to say.
Let's continue with the show, with the lyrical breakdown.
Or as I like to call it, the lyrical breakdown. Like break dancing.
Oh my god, if I don't have a new co-host next season.
And break beats.
On the show.
Anyways, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
So, the album as a whole, it's got this theme of we're going on a journey through the neighborhood, following this Mr. Hood character in KMD. And right into the first song, we get themes of resistance. We got a theme of resistance of resisting the stigma that a lot of young black males face during this time of, you guys don't know anything, you're criminals, you're this, you're that, you can't possibly know anything about jewelry and you have no right to be in this store. And the Mr. Hood character, he's got every right. So, but then it turns out Zev knows more, resisting that stigma. And in another spot, we're showing resistance of Mr. Hood's occupation and this idea that the only way to get out of this, situation that they're in, get rich, get money is to sell drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Sell drugs in their community.
Mm-hmm.
And they're resisting that by saying, no, we're not going to do that. That doesn't align with our morals. And there's another way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should listen to the song and break that down.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Opposed to the picket fence dream, but both lie on the same side of the gate. It seems that it's all coming back to me now. Yeah, I figured it was about 2 summers ago. No joking.
And we're back, folks. Let's keep moving.
So we've already touched on it about, the beginning of the song. You can't be in here. This is a jewelry store, not a pawn shop. And then Zev turns out to know way more about the prices of the watch than Mr. Hood does. Mm-hmm. So this kind of gains Mr. Hood's respect a little bit. Mm-hmm. And he offers Zev a job. He says, okay, yeah, go down the street, Zev, go down to this house. And Zev goes, oh, man, I know where this is. This is a drug house.
Yep.
And he goes, I actually am not going to do that. I think that's not cool. Mm-hmm. And I think this is centered around the religion. And maybe that's one of the reasons why they are resisting this drug drinking alcohol so much, because they are part of the Nation of Islam. Mm-hmm. And that's like a strict no drinking, no drugs. And they're saying, this is the way to be, man. You're ruining our community, and I'm going to resist this notion that this is the only way that I can get out. Mm-hmm. I can only make money from being a drug dealer, selling drugs to my own community, and I'm not going to do that. And we can presume they're talking about crack. I mean, it's called crack pot, but also there talks about slinging rocks and pebbles and stones, which is a reference to crack, which the crack epidemic was raging at the time.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
And again, later on in the song, it's saying that, Mr. Hood is saying that you have this, phony crackpot dream of like getting out of here, but there's only really one way you can do it, which is, you have 2 options. Do this, what I'm doing, sell drugs, or, chase this dumb dream and make pennies, and you're being a crackpot thinking you can do it by having a barber shop or like making money in a legal way. And I think KMD thinks that they're not condemned to those 2 options, like that you sell drugs or do illegal activity. They can resist that and do it another way.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully said.
Thank you. Should we get to the next song?
Let's keep moving.
Let's go to the next song. The next song is Who Me. Mm-hmm. Let's give it a listen.
Let's.
Thought this was your show, but...
Holy smokes, I see it's a joke to make a money.
Back after listening to Who Me with an answer from Dr. Bird. Mm-hmm. Probably my fave song. Really love this one.
It's a good one.
Talking about lots of things. Lyrical breakdown. Talking about this song, I think, is the epitome of resistance on this album. They're they're bringing up a lot of these stereotypes, racist depictions, and saying, who is that? That's not me. So they're talking about the character of Little Sambo a lot. Mm-hmm. Who, Little Sambo, we got him on the cover, got an X through him. He's this, racist caricature and stereotypical depiction of what white people thought African Americans and African people looked like. So in the very beginning, he's saying, they're saying who, in the song, saying, who is this guy? Who is Little Sambo? He's not us. Mm-hmm. That's not me. I've never seen this guy. Maybe he's missing. Maybe he's on a milk carton. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know who this guy is. So it's literally saying, I don't know where you guys are getting this from, but that's not who I am. Mm-hmm. And then we're also talking about, he's talking about, it has a line saying pigment is just a birth defect. Saying, why should I be treated any lesser because of the color of my skin? And not even the color, just the pigmentation of my skin. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great line.
Okay, perfect. And then again, we're talking about this racist depiction of Sambo, and this idea that they have the line, lips and eyes, dominant traits of our race, does not take up 95% of our face. So again, avoiding this depiction that has been portrayed. They're saying that is not me at all. And then they're also talking about their hair, talking about, the kind of derogatory, nappy hair they bring up, and they say, it used to be cool to have black hair. Oh, now it's not cool anymore? Why?
I mean, just a decade earlier, everybody had afros.
Yeah.
More people had afros.
Now it's not cool.
All artificial afros.
Artificial afros, exactly. But now it's not cool anymore, And then, actually, I think my favorite part in the song is they have a part from Sesame Street where they're saying, circle this. And to me, I think they're referring to, when you see racism happening, identify it, point it out, circle it, put a circle around it.
Name it and shame it.
Name it and shame it. So I think the Sesame Street thing is also very interesting because Sesame Street was created and kind of targeted at, had content around in the 80s, inner city black kids, and talking about things very specific to them. So I think even using Sesame Street in general is another really cool thing.
Can you talk about why Sesame Street samples, in a way, is an act of resistance against hip hop?
Yeah, and I think MF Doom, he calls himself the villain of hip hop, He's always kind of, and in a really good interview in Red Bull, he's saying that I never was really big into the bringing others down and making money and this the idea of what hip hop is, but using Sesame Street, I think they're kind of, and these goofy little things is that they're saying we're going to talk about these really deep issues, but we're going to do it in a lighthearted kind of way. So I think maybe it's a little more easily digestible, more relatable even, more people. It might appeal to more people, specifically white folk, because you can listen to it. Oh, that's funny, that's goofy.
And it's just very digestible.
Exactly, yeah.
And a lot of hip hop at the time was using a lot of grindhouse and black exploitation film samples, and they use a children's show.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. I think MF Doom does use some black exploitation
no, of course.
Later on.
But I'm specifically talking about KMD.
Yeah, and I think, it's resistance in itself, that it's doing reality rap, but maybe not in the way that NWA or Ice-T or Schoolie D were doing it, which is they're saying similar things, but just in a very lighthearted
So on
way.
that, the reality rap, what can you say about the resistance in a way taking the listener's hand and saying, hey, come along with me on this journey, you learn something, versus some of this more aggressive stuff that is right in your face? What do you think that has to do with resistance, and how do you think that has an effect on people maybe taking in a message?
Unfortunately, I almost think that is also kind of rooted in the fact it's kind of a little racist in itself that once you hear reality rap and it's super intense and it sounds angry, it's all these white people are oh God, I can't let my kids listen to that. Oh, it's so intense, and it's yeah, man, it is intense because what's happening to us is friggin' intense. But
is there a less intense way to be honest with the reality of a black man getting gunned down in the street by a police officer?
Well, exactly. So I think KMD kind of very intelligently had the idea to say, we get it, we see it might be a little too much for you little milquetoast friends, so we're going to lead your hand and gently take you through it. So in a way they're resisting the intensity and aggression that can come with reality rap, but not but in a way that they're still giving it to us, but in this very gentle kind of way that probably more white folk are gonna listen to it.
Well, in the lyrics of the album, as it goes on, we are kind of gradually exposed to more and more, and you've started the journey. Okay, we're good. You get to the middle, we're still good. You get to the end, we've got through all these intense themes that if we just jumped on from the beginning, maybe you wouldn't even got to the end.
Maybe
You would have quit after track 1 or 2.
Yeah.
But it takes you along, gradually exposes a listener to it. By the end of it, you're like, oh my god, I feel like I've learned something.
Absolutely.
I thought I was listening to music here. I'm learning things.
learning things.
Oh my goodness.
No, absolutely. But again, I think that is kind of messed up. That it's like, oh, people are hiding their kids and putting, parental advisories, and you can't listen to this, when it's like they're just telling the truth of what's happening to them. So I do think it is like I'm kind of unfortunate in a way that they like had to do it this way, but at the same time, it's very accessible and very, I think, works very well in their favor to kind of take this goofy kind of route with it.
And of course, the gentlemen in KMD were children themselves at the
Yeah,
time.
they were also children themselves, so that probably has something to do with it as well. But yeah, I think we should go to our next song.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Can you draw it so I can see? He said, draw it so. The barber is you. Must I sketch when I know offhand you can do? By this compliment, I became conceited. I said, I cannot be topped. Another cut completed. I said, with no hassle and stopped. Just to be blocked by the word he didn't mock to say.
This is the mission of the day. In fact, it's the mission. This is the mission of the day. In fact, it's the mission.
Welcome back. Let's keep moving along here.
So that was a great song, Sub Bronx Mission. Awesome song. What are we gonna say about it? More resistance in this song.
What do you think?
Well, one thing that I think is kind of interesting, talked about in a class I'm in actually with Dr. McGuire.
Doesn't compare to Dr. Broom.
Talking about some of the lyrics in rap is like not for my white ass to understand. Like it's made specific for the people that would be in this music. So in the beginning, like the song, there's some barbershop talk that goes way over my head. Like I've never been to a barbershop. So I think that in a way that's even like a little bit of resistance. It's saying like, this isn't for you. Like I'm not making music specifically for you. Like I'm making music for.
There's no pandering.
No, not. It's like, who's gonna get this is gonna get this. So I think that's kind of cool. And then we go into again the idea that KMD kind of has their own style. Like in this song, it says KMD rocks their own style. Like, and that's talking about how they're not following that path. They're resisting this path. They're going their own way. They're going down their own path. They're making their own future. They're making it and doing it the way they want to do it. Which is really cool. They're not concerned of like what people think of them based on the race, where they grew up, their age, whatever. They're like, we rock our own style, and we're gonna resist these stereotypes, like Mr. Hood character. We're doing it our own way. That's pretty cool.
Beautifully said.
Yeah, and then we have a Nubian reference, which again, they're like very proud of their religion, and at the time in the States, and now it's like Christianity is what everyone practices usually. You're Christian, you're Catholic, so again, kind of resistance in itself, saying we're not going. We're your Nubian nation of Islam. Malcolm X is our boy. We're rocking with Malcolm X. So again, resistance to the mainstream religions that were hanging around, and yeah, it's talking about their skin tone, the Nubian tan, which again, they're really proud of their religion, and they're gonna resist being forced, which most people are. It's like your parents are Christian, so you're Christian, or your parents are Catholic, so you're Catholic. So like a white person thing, a lot of the time, and they're like, nah, we're going this way. Our own style, our own religion is for us, which is awesome. Anything you have to say?
I think you said it all. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And then, and again, they're in the next song too. We're talking about not eating pork. Again, their religion, and the song previous, they're talking about the liquor that Mr. Hood is asking for beer and wine, and they're like, nah, man, like we got
Fruit
nectar.
juice.
Yeah, we got we got like a fruit juice, and that's what we're rocking with. Which again is kind of resisting this, even the stigma that comes along with like rap and hip hop where it's like, oh yeah, drinking lean and drinking alcohol and popping bottles and stuff. What was that look for?
I don't think lean existed yet.
No, but I'm just saying. I'm just saying that like it is kind of goes hand in hand. And there's another lyric down in one of the other songs talking about like, you know, rock and roll, sex and drugs. We prefer like peace and hugs and you know, stuff like that. So it's like really avoiding this like stereotype that comes along if you're a rapper in hip hop, where it's like, oh, you drink and you smoke and you party and you have coitus a lot and like, you know,
Oh, I know I do.
you're violent and you're criminals and you're selling drugs and you're shooting guns and like all this stuff, and they're like, no. So I think that the big theme of resistance throughout the whole album is just resisting that stigma and stereotype, which is pretty cool.
I agree.
I think we have one more song and we're getting out of here. I'm hungry.
Let's take a quick break.
Quick break.
Jingleheimer Schmidt. His name ain't my name, cause X ain't permitting shit. I was no hypocrite. So yo, zip your lip. ZLB ripping, out real whip. No, shake your hip or you're up. Forget about
We're
what
back on the Dr. Broom Show. I'm looking particularly ghoulish with this lighting. Almost like I have a mask on. Our favorite masked rapper, Daniel Dumoulin, of course.
Good one. So we just listened to Hum Rush. Really good song. It's actually like Hum Rush and The Mission and Who Me are like my top 3 songs on this album. Really, really good. But Hum Rush, awesome song. And again, another instance of resisting these stereotypes that are made by white people, usually. And there's, you know, the specific line of, I'm not your average everyday cotton picking or baling hay, hoe tricking brother who likes to eat chicken.
Well, a lot said there.
A lot said there. Like a lot of like the stereotype, oh, you eat chicken and, you know, this and that. It's like, where did these come? Like, kind of back to Who Me. Like, where did these come from? Like, what? This is not me. Like, this is not who I am.
Well, and that's a great line you chose. It has a double entendre, where it says, not only am I not the stereotype, but I'm not your typical black man. It's also implied in that.
Yeah. Which typical, again, is kind of like it's a stereotype in itself.
But also perhaps a slight reference to get back to the 5 percenters.
Oh yeah, when did we talk the 5 percenters? That the sector, a little group of the Nation of Islam was started by, called the 5 percenters, started by Clarence X, which could be a little Zevlov X.
Malcolm X.
Or Malcolm X, you know, could be a little reference there. But yeah, the 5 percenters thought that like, 5% of the African American community or black community is like, they're like gods. Like they're like gods and goddesses and royalty. So, and there is a few kind of themes of that throughout, being like, you know, not your average, you know, typical whatever. Even in the next song, the blues song, kind of they say things about like, oh, this might not, I know this isn't like funk and this isn't whatever, like you guys might not like this. So kind of again, this kind of reference to be like, not your typical black guy that likes this kind of music, like we're doing something a little different. So I think that is like a throughout as well.
Definitely.
But yeah, and then later on too, in one of the songs, they're spelling out Sub Rock's name with the 5 percenter like special alphabet they have. So again, another reference to the 5 percenters. And yeah, I think like 5 percenters, like even though Clarence X was a little kooky, I get it. Like I totally get what they're saying. Like,
and of course, Dumoulin would later leave the 5 percenters, so it's important to listen to this album in the context of an 18-year-old Dumoulin, along with the other members of KMD, of course.
Yeah, and I think he kind of strayed away from like, I think he started drinking and like doing stuff like that. So there is like this idea of like, while you're young and you've got these like strong convictions that, you know, as you age and you have experiences and, you know, bad things happen, good things happen. I mean, Sub Rock passed away like after this album was put out. Like I think things change. You grow up. You like realize whatever. But I think them being so hard and pushing the Nation of Islam, especially at that time, was like a really important thing to do. Because it really does follow that their religion go hand in hand. One affects the other of being like, there's another way, which I think is like a common theme, like the theme throughout the album, and a big theme of resistance is like, there is another way, and we're gonna do it.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Screw your stereotypes. Screw the stereotypes that we sometimes even, that the community even puts on themselves. Between, you know, just even like a young black man has to be tough and you know whatever and this and that and drink, smoke to be in the rap game and all these things. So I think that's like a big theme of resistance there.
I completely agree. Is there any other points you would like to touch on, Dr. Cook?
I'd like to touch on the bottom of this cup has old coffee in it.
Correct. That's why I took this one.
That's really gross. But I think what we did our lyrical breakdown. We talked about the social circumstances of racism and classism and ageism and religion, drug dealing and such, and then black empowerment. Really, I think it was a really empowering message throughout this album, saying like, you can do anything. Just doesn't matter where you're from, who you are, the pigment of your skin, you know, anything like that. You can do anything. Like you can be what you want to be. You can open a barber shop, like, or you don't have to be a drug dealer.
You don't have to be Mr. Hood.
You don't have to be Mr. Hood. Like
you don't have to be a stereotype.
You don't have to be a stereotype.
You are your own person ultimately. And
I think that is what this album is about. Very deep album with such comedy in it, but like still like the message rings so true throughout the whole album.
Completely agree. Anything else you would say, Dr. Cook?
I think that's okay. I think I'm good, but I think our viewers gotta stay tuned for our next episode.
You're in for a treat. Dr. Cook, could you hand me that record over there?
I would love to.
Join us next time when we talk about Victor Vaughn. Thank you. Stay safe. Be kind.
It's a weird world out there, folks. Be kind to each other.
Now you're stealing lines.
It's a good line. Thank you.